What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fan Awakens. I'm your host today, Eli, as usual, as always. And today, I know it's my first review of Kenobi, but we're starting with episode 4. I am going to retroactively go back, and I don't know if I'm going to group all 1 through 3 into one video, or if I'll sort of do a entire show review at the end of it. But I am going to independently review episode 4 today, and episode 5 next week, 6 the week after. Um, I'm sure I'll do 1, 2, and 3 individually, but I wanted to get this video out first and foremost because it's relevant and it's fresh on my mind. I just rewatched the episode again. So, thank you for being here. And I just want to preface this also by saying this is going to be very spoiler heavy. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. If you have not seen the video, if you have not seen the episode 4 of Kenobi, please don't watch this. Go watch Kenobi. Come back and watch it after. But for those of you that have, welcome, welcome one, welcome all. So I'm gonna get into it. So I will say, episode 4 is probably my least favorite episode so far. I still enjoyed it though. I enjoyed it. I guess I'll just sort of break down step by step the episode what I thought, and then give you the overall thoughts at the end. Starts off with a cool scene I really liked. Oh, excuse me. Scene I really liked, where it shows Obi-Wan in a Bacta tank, and he's sort of having these flashbacks and these moments and these thoughts, but it also mirrors to Anakin Vader in a Bacta tank. It shows his missing arm and all that fun stuff, and I like that. I always love that mirrored stuff in storytelling. It was really effective. Both of them tortured in different ways, but their torture is connected to each other. So that's something that I really dug. Almost reminded me just a little bit of like the whole dyad in the Force thing of episode 9, but in episode 8. So that was a nice opening. I was like, okay, Obi-Wan, he ain't looking too hot, but better than Vader. Better than Vader. All things considered, he looks all right. When he got out of there, his arm was a little janky. He really wasn't trying to use that arm, but as the episode went on, it seemed like time heals all wounds, I guess, including physical. Then we meet Rokin, played by O'Shea Jackson Jr., who I'm a fan of. I know he's a big fan of Star Wars. He's very outspoken about that. So I was excited to have him in the show just because he's a big fan. And I think that when you have people who are passionate about the source material, usually you get good stuff. People who don't necessarily have to go out and research it, they already know. It's already in-house knowledge. And I thought that he did good. He did really good as an actor. He hasn't been acting his whole life. I think he's a charismatic guy, cares about the stuff. Rokin, though, it was kind of funny, though. And one of my biggest issues with Kenobi is how short the episodes are. And I know that originally the show was written as a film and then, rewritten as a show and yada, yada, yada. But it's just funny because he's like, Obi-Wan's like, I need your help. I need to get Leia. She's only 10, blah, 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 blah. He's like, nah, everybody's looking for you. It's too hot. And then he's like talking about how his wife was force sensitive and they tried to hide, but they found her either way. And Obi-Wan's like, but I need help. And he's like, you need my help? He's like, I need your help. All right, Obi-Wan, I'll help you. I'm like, that was easy. Hit the easy button. Pop. But either way, he was in there short for a very short scene. I guess when you have a 30-minute episode, there's not too much time to play with. From there, though, we meet, let's see, what did I wrote some notes. Okay, we go to the Inquisitor's, tower on the moon, the water moon in the Mustafar system. Obviously very different than the planet Mustafar. And we get to see Leia's being held captive. Obviously this whole episode, it's Kenobi episode 4, and it can't be an accident that they mirrored episode 4, Star Wars. Very much so. Almost like I mean, the tower is like the Death Star, and I know they snuck in instead of were drawn in, but they were in there, and you know, they have like C3PO on the comms to Luke, and yeah, the whole nine. But the whole Leia and Riva thing, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. On one hand, it's kind of odd that Leia is enduring all of this at the age of 10, and she's a very sharp 10-year-old. She's very, very, very in tune, with the mental side of things, and she seems to have a good memory and all this. So I'm like, on one hand, none of this really maybe lines up with episode 4. I think that stuff you kind of have to just deal with. Like, it just, yeah, it is what it is. On the other hand, you could, and the one other thing is they keep interviewing or torturing and what's the word, interrogating Leia, and like clearly she's very anti-Empire. Um, but as time goes on, when you pick up in episode 4, because I just rewatched episode 4 also, um, when it starts out, she seems like she's like a cool customer, feisty and all, but like doesn't seem like she's had open beef with the Empire. I don't know. Um, so we go there. We spend some time with Riva talking to Leia. Riva talking about how oh, I had a droid. They took it from me. They took everything from me. I'm sure that we'll learn more about her in the next 2 episodes. I mean, we have to. It's pretty clear to me that she's obviously one of the younglings that they showed us in the opening of the series. That was at the temple during Order 66. How did she go from there to being an Inquisitor? We shall see. Um, let's see. From there, we get into the break-in part. So we have Tala, who is the officer or spy, if you will. She gets into the big tower. She talks some shit, gets where she needs to go. Real spy shit. Uh, and she gets into the building, and when she's in that like control room and she's talking to Obi-Wan, I'm like, man, she's being pretty fucking loud, man. She's like being pretty loud. And so even that the guy next to her, the officer next to her, kind of looks at her like, what's going on in this place, Obi-Wan? Oh my goodness, Obi-Wan, we gotta be sneaky. Obi-Wan gets into the, hatch, the water hatch, breaks in, really Alec Guinness-esque, which I thought that was all awesome when he was making his way through. Essentially, like how old Obi-Wan, old Ben, was navigating the Death Star in Episode 4. I dug all that, and he's like kind of looking more grizzled. He's kind of hurt. He's been battered and beaten a little bit. He's definitely favoring his arm. It's kind of still hurt. Um, which is fine. Then we get more Leia interrogation. And the funny thing is, as I was writing my notes to remember like the order of everything that happened in the episode, I was like, man, I'm putting a lot of bullet points for a 30-minute episode. The episode is really short, uh, which it is what it is. But I just wish there was more time. And it's kind of hypocritical of me to say that because I'm very much a movie person. I love shows too. I love all content like that as long as it's good. But by default, I'm someone who favors films. So like if I had the choice, if they're like, hey, Eli, if Kathleen Kennedy called me up and was like, hey, should we make an Obi-Wan movie or an Obi-Wan show? I would say movie 10 times out of 10. That's just me. I love seeing Star Wars on the big screen. And Star Wars on the small screen has been great. I love Mando. Bad Batch is awesome. Book of Boba Fett was pretty cool. Um, but it doesn't give me that same that same hype, I guess. And also, even though some would argue you can do a lot more in a 10 excuse me, like 6 to 10 hour thing. I mean, these shows are like 30 to 45 minutes an episode, 6 episodes. Definitely more time. Uh, but I like, give me a 2.5 hour Obi-Wan movie, $250 million, $200 million budget, $150 million budget. I don't know. Um, Geez, I need a drink. But sometimes on the show, like it looks fantastic, and I'm like, this is something that I could have seen in the movies. Um, and sometimes it looks like, no offense to anything here, but it looks more like The Mandalorian, where the visual style has seemed it bounces around a lot. Sometimes it feels like I'm watching a movie, and sometimes it feels like I'm watching a TV show on like a NBC or something. And excuse me again. I think the biggest reason why that's sticking out to me is because I just binged Stranger Things, and they put 30 million in each episode of Stranger Things. I'm not sure what the budget was for Obi-Wan, but Stranger Things has a massive cast. Every episode is like an hour plus. Some of them an hour and a half, 2 hours. They're movies, and when you watch them, they feel awfully cinematic and they look like movies. And one thing that does leave me scratching my head a bit is like, why don't they invest that kind of time and money into Obi-Wan? He's obviously a huge IP. I think that Obi-Wan Kenobi is the this show or property that Star Wars fans in general seem to be the most on board with before it even came out. You know, like everybody's been screaming for more Obi-Wan content for years, like a decade. Um, so it does feel a little bit like they're holding back on the budget, which I'm like, I don't know why. I don't know why. So that's a nitpick of mine, not a huge issue. I wouldn't say that detracts from my enjoyment of the show too much. But I apologize for that tangent. To get into it further, we're at 11 minutes. Okay. So Obi-Wan sneaks in. Okay, yeah, so Obi-Wan sneaks in. He's navigating. She's like, you got to go down and go north, find the secret area, which is kind of funny because this whole base seems secret and not a soul can get inside of it. No one's ever been able to penetrate it, but here they are, and there's a super secret area. Where they're interrogating and trying to torture Leia. And then what do we have? Tala is confronted by another officer, and she goes around. He's like, "Come with me." She's like, "Yep." Goes over there, hits him with a 1-2, pow pow. Drops him, leaves him around the corner. Not super stealthy. No security cameras apparently, but she drops him. Then she goes back to the terminal and's like, Obi-Wan's like, I need a distraction. She calls Reva right before she's about to, I don't know what she's gonna do to Leia, if she's gonna perform a lobotomy or something. But, Reva goes back upstairs. Um, Tala basically tells her, yeah, I'm a spy, pretty much tells her the truth and then couples it with a lie. Reva seems to see right through it. Um, but one of my favorite scenes, the pretty much sequences, once Obi-Wan goes in the room and you see that he's like, I think it's a tomb, and you see oh my gosh, there's a youngling in there. I'm like, wow, they didn't have to pose him like that with his eyes open and shit. Just like, oh man, that hurt. Um, let's see. Um, Terrace Nube was in there. Terrace Nube from the Clone Wars. I love Terrace Nube. He's like I would love to give Terrace Nube a nice warm hug. Just seems very kind. He helped Ahsoka out. There's some I believe he was teaching some younglings. I could be wrong. In the episode of the Clone Wars where Barriss, um, if anybody's seen the Clone Wars, when Ahsoka and Barriss are fighting, and she's on the run. I think Anakin was dealing with her actually, and I believe Terrace Nube's there, for a minute. He's got the cane lightsaber, I believe. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments. Um, and then some other folks. I don't know who everybody was. I just was like, Terrace Nube. I got excited. And then Youngling, I was like, Youngling. I don't know why I got excited that Terrace Nube was dead and like preserved, which is more like just like, hey, things are connected. Um, let's see. And then really, really cool cinematography going on. I loved when the lights went dark and then you just see the lightsaber cuts him down, goes off again. And it kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, like very Batman-esque almost, which is kind of funny. I wouldn't normally connect or compare Batman and Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it just felt like a Batman-esque scene. He saves Leia. They're running out of there. Um, Another really cool scene is when they shoot. The blaster fire gets deflected, hits the glass. Water's about to come in. Um, and Obi-Wan just. I feel like that whole scene after he gets Leia, Obi-Wan started to get his swagger back. He found his mojo again. Um, I mean, the way he's moving, it's like that arm ain't really hurting anymore. I can use that. I can use the Force. Come at me. I got you. Um, and Obi-Wan just kind of started handing out naps. He was deflecting those bolts like a younger Obi. Uh, and he was using the Force and deflecting bolts at the same time, holding the window. And I was like, okay, it seems like they put 80% of the budget in this one sequence, but it's worth it because I think the sequence is great. Even though, I mean, is it worth it if it seems like different shows, like in the beginning, it's like, they kind of seem to skimp on this one. But that scene was great, and as I always say, it's better to finish strong than start strong. I.e., the Phantom Menace. Quite a strong ending in that one, but And I'm not hating on the Phantom Menace. Don't get me wrong. Um, but really cool. Obi-Wan just like does some weird force move and cracks all the glass and lets it go and starts flooding the place. He runs out of there like a hero does. Escapes with not a drop on him, may I add. For a second, I was like, oh, is he gonna use that like force dash that we've only seen him and Qui-Gon use pretty much? Um, for the most part, in episode one when destroyers and they fucking sorry for my language, they deflect a few and then they just whoosh, dash out of there. I thought he might hit one of those. He didn't. He just went feet. He just ran out of there. Um, but it seemed like the arm was no longer an issue. They got out of there, sealed the doors. Tala gave him a disguise. She's like, okay, dress in this. They won't notice. Just hide Leia in there, which it did make me chuckle. It reminds me of like those old shows and stuff where the kids sit on each other's shoulders with a trench coat trying to get into a rated R movie. It's like, who's that? He just has like just Leia, just little feet walking around. Like, don't pay attention to us. Officers running everywhere. I get alarms are going off and things. But they're just kind of walking. Like, we're getting out of here. He looked like I mean, no offense, but he kind of looked like a bum. Like, man, and I mean, I know he just came out of a Bacta tank. I don't know how much Bacta cleans you, but he also swam in that water. I don't know how clean that is. He kind of looked like he smelled. Nobody in there's wearing masks, I'd imagine. Ooh, who's this guy? He needs to wash his hair. Jeez. Um, but they seem to make it all the way out there. Right there, they're about to leave, and then Riva comes out, and she's ready to go hands with him. I was kind of expecting Obi-Wan and Riva to fight, given it's episode 4 of 6. And only a half-hour episode. I'm like, you gotta give us something. But they did not. The speeders swoop in, start shooting people, clearing a path. Obi-Wan, Tala, and Leia escape. I thought that was all fine. It was all fine and dandy. I don't know why Homeboy stuck around to keep shooting at Riva for so long after they flew away. I guess you could excuse it on the line, which they did. They did tee up. Said, we're not soldiers. They don't have all this battle experience. He doesn't know. He's just, I'm sure his adrenaline was pumping. Probably started flying away a little too late. And caught like a bomb to the back of the ship. And that was the end of him. Obi-Wan, they all get back. Hurrah. Another awesome scene, although I don't know, it all seems a bit out of character. When Vader runs in, he's just walking in. I love how it's super intense on him, and you don't even have to see anything but his like shoulders up to see how fast he's walking. He walks in there and he starts choking Riva, which is very on character, and he's lifting her up, and it's like, oh man, the James Earl Jones voice sounds fantastic. But Vader seems a little soft, given the Vader that they set up in episode 3. How he's just, I mean, pushing people, snapping necks without a thought. When it comes to Riva, on the one hand, I mean, she failed. She failed. He told her, if you fail, I'm gonna kill you. And then she bought herself some more time, put a tracker in the droid. It just felt like some real plot armor there. I don't know. I feel like Vader probably would have just, her too. I'm glad he didn't, because they've spent so much time on Riva that we have to have some more info on her in the next 2 episodes. We got to see. Oh, and that's the other thing. I think Moses Ingram is great. And I should have said this before, since this is the first time I'm speaking on Obi-Wan. But anybody who's like, if anyone here is talking racist shit and like just spewing racism, I definitely don't have a place for you on my channel in its infancy. I don't like any of that. I don't think there's a place for it at all. So that's first and foremost. But Vader lets Riva off. She's like, okay, I'm safe. We still haven't seen the Grand Inquisitor. Now I'm starting to think maybe he's gonna come back in like the next episode or the last episode, and he and Riva are gonna fight. I don't anticipate Riva making it out of the series, just because it wouldn't really make a ton of sense, because where is she in any of the other material? Um, my other fear is that she's gonna turn back to the light, which I really would be upset if they didn't commit to her being a villain. Uh, because it happens so. I mean, it's Vader, it's and then in the sequel trilogy, it's Kylo, both of whom I will say till the end of the earth, I don't think either of them deserved redemption. You could say Vader, given what we saw in the original trilogy, but once you couple that with what we saw in the prequels, I'm like, this guy definitely doesn't deserve redemption. I don't, I don't think so. Uh, Kylo, I mean, we never saw him as a Force Ghost. To be fair, I definitely don't think he deserved redemption. Um, Riva, we haven't seen her do a whole lot other than like, I mean, irredeemable acts. Uh, she's had quite a temper, but like, I don't think that's anything you can't. If Vader can come back, Riva definitely can. I just don't want it to happen. I just don't. I don't want to see every character that's bad turn good at the end. I'm just let her be a villain. Let her be a villain. Even if she's less of a villain as the other villains, let her be a villain. Same thing I have with like all the Sony Spider Verse movies. Venom and Morbius, and they're gonna have. I just don't like and Black Adam even on another end, on the DC side. I'm not a fan of these movies where they make a movie about a villain but make them a hero. It's like I don't know. It's like they're an anti-hero, but really, I don't know. Let her be a villain. Let her kill that role. Um, Another thing, and that's pretty much the end of the episode. So the episode in a whole, I think, is probably the least strong, just because there's not a whole lot of substance. 30 minutes of it, a lot of the time feels. I wouldn't necessarily say filler, but it just feels like a waste when all we have is 6 episodes. It just didn't seem like there was a whole lot of purpose to it for me. Like I feel like you could have the things that you accomplished character wise in this episode, you probably could have coupled with another episode. If the next 2 episodes are only 30 minutes, I don't know. A little nervous as far as the outcome, and I know they haven't explicitly said there's not going to be a season 2 that I know of, but I don't think that was ever in the plans. Uh, Overall, yeah, I think we'll see. I think that one of the biggest issues I have with this show so far is budget. Um, and yeah, budget. I think that's why some of the episodes are so short. I just wish Disney Plus would invest um, the due funds for something like Obi-Wan, where I do think that they are being a little bit cheap. Uh, and I don't want this to be sour. If I had to give a grading on this episode, I don't. I used to do a lot of ratings and review a lot of movies with a number on it. I really don't like to put a number on it. But if I had to, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 10. Um, and to be clear, I know everybody thinks of ratings differently. Don't think of 5 out of 10 as an F like in the traditional US grading system. You know, I don't consider it an F of an episode. I just, middle of the pack. To be clear, I think that episode 3 I probably would have given like a 7.5. 7.5, which, you know, we have to establish. I mean, we've had so long to make expectations for this. And I really dug the show overall. My few gripes are just how they are using time, how much effort, and I just wish there was more Vader also. I wish there was more focus on specifically Kenobi and Vader. I'm guessing the episode 6 is going to be really Vader heavy, but we'll see. Um, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I thought the episode was okay. This seems to be teeing off more. Um, this episode also does really make me feel like this whole show might be queuing up a Riva spin-off series, which um we'll see how I feel about that after the series is over. What the character has done and what the character hasn't. I think that it could be cool to do that if you base it before Kenobi and we kind of see her journey maybe from Order 66 to where Kenobi picks up. That might be interesting. Um, Definitely like Moses Ingram. Would like to see more of her in some capacity. And who knows? Maybe we'll see her in Fallen Order too. I heard that I think Fallen Order takes place around the same time, the second one, or Star Wars Jedi Survivor or whatever it's called. Um, I believe it takes place 5 years after the first, which took 5 years after Episode 3. So who knows? Who knows if we'll see Cal Kestis? I don't think so. Um, but we'll see. We'll see. We got 2 more episodes, ladies and gents. I'd love to hear your comments. What are your thoughts on the episode? What do you think? What do you think's gonna happen in the next episode? Are we gonna see the big? Because there has to be another Vader Obi-Wan showdown. Obviously, I'm assuming it's gonna be in episode 6. If they continue this juxtaposition of episodes, it would make sense that um, the 6th episode released, I suppose, in Obi-Wan is mirrored to the 6th episode release of Star Wars in general, Revenge of the Sith, Kenobi. I don't know what you would call it. Maybe they would call it Revenge of the Jedi. Not. Or Return of the Sith. Or I don't know. Something playing on the idea of Revenge of the Sith. Either way, this episode was aight. It was aight. I don't know. It was entertaining. I think it's hard to lose somebody in 30 minutes when you have Obi-Wan Kenobi on screen and Vader for a minute. But what do you guys think? Let me know. Let me know. I'm happy to be here. Also, I just want to let y'all know again, anybody who went to Star Wars Celebration, if you want to talk about your experience with me on the YouTube channel, I'm starting a series. I think I'm bouncing names around. We'll see. I'll make an official announcement soon. But I'm looking for anybody who wants to talk about their celebration experience, share our experiences. Reach out. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in my messages, Instagram, whatever. But until then, I want to thank you all for watching the video. Leave a subscribe if you haven't. Hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If not, that's okay with me too. But as always, may the force be with you all. Take care of yourselves. Drink water. I'll see you next time. Peace.